Hello, everybody, and welcome to our first webinar in the Master Your Marketing series. The series is presented by us from Main Street ROI, along with our partners from Optimizer, Acquisio, Conversa, and SpyFu. My name is Kate Lombardo. I'm the Content Marketing Manager over here at Main Street ROI, and we're really excited to have all of you here today. Just gonna get through, tell you a little bit about what the Master Your Marketing series is. So we put the series together as a way to partner with industry experts. They've all agreed to come on board throughout the next few months, share their best, most up-to-date and actionable digital marketing advice. Each month from today, August, up through December of 2017, a new expert will present on a topic of their choice. It's 100% free to attend these webinars, and by registering, you'll receive an email from the companies presenting with special offers and valuable information that you can use to help grow your business. So this is our schedule coming up for the next few months. Today we have Phil Frost from Main Street ROI, and then going forward, we'll have presenters from SpyFu, Conversa, Optimizer, and Acquisio. So for today's presentation, we will be talking about what's working now in SEO and how to get your website on the first page of Google by the end of 2017. Today's presentation will be presented by Phil Frost from Main Street ROI. And with that, Phil, I'll hand this over to you.
All right, thank you, Kate. And I have a little bit of housekeeping myself. I like to remind everyone to post questions as they pop into your head. We'll address anything urgent as it comes in, but don't worry if we don't get to it while I'm presenting, then we'll have a live Q&A at the end. I already see some questions coming in. Is this being recorded? So the answer there is yes. I did click record, and we typically send out replays within about 24 hours. I always recommend you turn off distractions. You just get the most out of webinars like this if you're not also checking email and trying to scroll through your Facebook feed. And lastly, I want to do a poll here just to see who's on. And you should see a poll on your screen that says, are you currently working with an SEO agency or consultant? With yes, no, or the third answer there is we are an agency or I am a consultant. And as expected, we have quite a few agencies and consultants on the line, actually almost 50% here, 46%. 17, 18% are saying yes, they are working with an agency, and 39% have said no. So let me close that out. Most people have voted. And to get a sense for the size of your SEO campaigns, the next question here is, what is your current or anticipated monthly SEO budget for 2017? We've got, see, about 40% have voted now, so 35% have said less than 500, 22%, 500 to 1,000, 20%, 1,000 to 2,000, 5%, 2,000 to 3,000, and actually, surprisingly, 19% over 3,000. All right, most people have voted. I'm going to close that out. I just got one last question here to get a sense for the other digital marketing channels that you're using. Sophie asked, isn't SEO organic? And I apologize for the confusion there. I wasn't saying your ad budget. What I was referring to is your SEO budget, how much you're going to invest, whether that's in-house, with an in-house team or with an agency. That was what the previous question was about. And this question, we've got a lot of people here. 83% using Google AdWords and or Bing, 70% using Facebook ads, 75% using email marketing, 74% using social media, and then 8%, said other. And it looks like a lot of people are writing in LinkedIn, which is good to see. That's great social media platform for B2B. And Richard said mobile text ads as well. All right, I appreciate you guys filling that in. And you should be able to see my screen. Just turn so you can see my mugshot here. If this is your first Main Street ROI presentation, you're probably wondering, who am I? Why should you listen to me? Well, again, my name is Phil Frost. I'm the founder of Main Street ROI, and our business provides digital marketing services like SEO, online advertising, and email marketing. And we also provide a lot of training, like this training today. We do a lot of free webinars, like this series. We publish a lot of articles on our blog, on our website, mainstreetroi.com. And then we also do some more in-depth paid courses that you can take a look at by going to mainstreetroi.com/training. And to date, we've helped over 2,000 businesses with their digital marketing. And my thought leadership has been featured in Forbes, Inc., Amex, as well as Mashable. And I'm also the proud father of these cute kids here. It's my favorite slide of the presentation. We've got Violet on the left. She's 4.5 years old. We've got Emmett on the right, who I can barely hold anymore. He's getting pretty chubby. He's just over 2 years old. And my beautiful wife, Erin, in the middle there. And we live on the Upper West Side of Manhattan. All right, so here's what we're going to cover today. I'm going to talk about 3 SEO trends you need to understand. I'll walk through the 5-step process for SEO that's working in 2017. This is actually what we're using for our clients. And based on that, I'll show you some real-world case studies to prove that that 5-step process does work. At the end, we have a special offer for all the attendees. And I already mentioned we'll have live Q&A at the end. All right, so let's dive into the 3 SEO trends you must understand. First one here, hopefully is not news for anyone. This is mobile. This is a graph here that shows the number of users on desktop versus mobile. And you can see that mobile actually surpassed desktop not too long ago. And that's global there. And Google more recently made the announcement that more people are searching in Google on their mobile device versus their desktop. So mobile obviously becoming more and more popular. That should not be news to anyone. And then, what are people actually doing on their mobile device? Here's a stat. This one comes from Google, and they've done some studies. They've done lots of studies here, and found that 82% of smartphone users will use search to find local businesses. So not only are people, using their phone to scroll through their Facebook feeds, like I mentioned earlier, but they are using their phones to actually find local businesses. So that's important. So what is Google's response to this big trend? This is a post from November 4th, 2016 on the Google Webmaster Central blog. And I didn't copy everything here. Long story short is that Google announced they're switching the way that their index works. And instead of going and looking at the desktop version of your site, they are eventually going to look at the mobile version of your site first. So that's a huge change from an SEO perspective. So when I got started back in 2006, really no one was going on smartphones. I don't even know if they called them smartphones back then. I think I had one of those phones that you flipped up, and I couldn't even really access the internet. So all you had to do back then was make sure everything worked on your desktop. Your website was rendering properly and functioning for desktop. So that's all you had to worry about. But now, with Google switching over to a mobile first index, and just to be clear, this has not happened yet. Google thought it was going to happen in 2017. It's looking like it's more like 2018 at this point. But when that does happen, when they flip that switch, Google is going to actually look at your mobile website first and foremost to make decisions about how you should rank or how your website should rank in their search results. So it's a huge change. The key takeaways, obviously your prospects are using mobile. That's been proven study after study. Google's moving to this mobile first index. It's predicted in 2018. And obviously, key takeaway here is to test and fix any issues with your mobile site as soon as possible. Hopefully this is a wake-up call. If you don't have a mobile optimized website, you should really put that on your priority list to try to get that done by the end of this year. Here's a tool. So you'll get a copy of this presentation. You'll be able to click right on that link that shoots you over to Google's mobile-friendly testing tool. And it will test your website to show you how Google views your website. And it will identify any issues with the mobile version of your site. And then obviously you want to fix any of those problems. Whether that's site speed, that's a common one with mobile websites. They're just slow loading. But also just the usability of a mobile site is a factor in how well that mobile site is going to rank in the search results. And then just from an ongoing standpoint, you want to just continue to improve your mobile site speed. That's just going to continue to be something that needs to be improved as users just get used to faster loading sites. Again, just from personal experience, I grew up in the days of dial-up. And if you remember those days, pages took a long time to load. You'd basically just sit there and watch it load almost pixel by pixel. But now I have absolutely no patience for that. So if I go to a site and it doesn't load, I'm just clicking the back button. I'll go to a different site that I find in Google. Google knows that, and that's why site speed is a factor in the ranking algorithm, as well as usability, which I mentioned. And that just gets into the user experience and just making sure you have a user-friendly website where it's very easy to navigate and find the information. All right, trend number 2 is local. And some stats that you should be aware of. And again, you'll get a copy of this so you can check out the link to the source of these stats. So 3 in 4 smartphone owners turn to search first to address their immediate needs. So more and more people are just using their smartphones to actually get the information that they need. And nearly 1/3 of all mobile searches are related to location. And 76% of people who conduct a local search on their smartphone visit a physical place within 24 hours. And more importantly, 28% of those searches actually result in a purchase. So not only are people turning to their phones to find information and searching to find businesses, but that does tend to drive more foot traffic and ultimately more sales. So Google's response to this whole local trend, you've probably seen this. If you do a search like dentist near the zip code 10011, which is our office zip code here, you will see a map like this one here, right front and center in Google's first page. And then below that map, you'll see the business flow, the businesses that are nearby, as well as their address, phone number, and then you can see the links there to their website, to directions. And the whole purpose of this is Google realized people are searching for nearby businesses. And when Google determines that people want to find the nearby businesses, Google just makes it very easy by putting that map there and showing the nearby businesses. and that's what we call local SEO. That's actually getting your business to show up high in these map results on the first page of Google. So you can see that map right there. So key takeaways for the local trend. Your prospects are searching to find local businesses. Google's giving just very prominent placement in the search engine results page. And a key takeaway, if you haven't done this already, you want to go set up your Google My Business profile. Here's the link to go do that. And you want to verify your account, which just takes an extra step. You can either do that by phone, by mail. They can mail you a postcard with a PIN number. And more recently, you can actually do it by video. And then just taking that a step further, we're not going to dive too far into local SEO here, but maybe we can get more in depth in the Q&A. But don't just stop with Google My Business. You also want to set up accounts in other relevant business directories, whether that's other local directories, like a local Chamber of Commerce type directory. Also get into some niche directories that are specific to your industry. And you can also get into more national, well-known directories like a Yelp. All right, the third trend is not necessarily a trend here, but it's related to links, because I find there's a lot of misconceptions out there with links and SEO, and more specifically backlinks. The main question here is, are backlinks still important in 2017? And are they going to continue to be important? My answer to that is pretty straightforward. Absolutely, they're still important. They're going to still be important, and that's really because Google's algorithm was built on looking at links from other websites. That's excuse me, literally how Google's algorithm was developed. It was the whole kind of secret sauce to why Google became the #1 search engine is because they started to incorporate backlinks to websites, and that was a big factor in how well a particular website would rank in Google. Because it's basically like a popularity contest. If you have a lot of links from other well-known, well-respected websites, then you get a strong reputation by association. And Google thinks, hey, if those other well-respected websites are linking to your website should also be well-respected and deserves to rank high in Google. So it's obviously a oversimplified version of how the algorithm works, but that really is at the core. That was how Google's algorithm was built. And because of that, links will continue to be important. That's really one of the strongest signals that a website can get that shows that you have a authoritative, well-respected website if you're getting links from other well-respected websites, other relevant, well-respected websites. Key takeaways, I do recommend everyone review what's called your backlink profile. And that's just the number and types of links that you have to your website. And you can do that in Search Console. And again, here's that link, google.com/webmasters/tools. You can go get set up in Search Console, and that will show you all of the links, not all of them, but the ones that Google has found that are pointing to your website. You can also review competitors' backlink profiles, and that's definitely something I would recommend. You can take a look at these two tools, SpyFu and Ahrefs. Basically, no tool is going to be perfect, which is why I recommend you take a look at several different tools, and even look at your own website in all three of those tools with Search Console, SpyFu, and Ahrefs, and get a good sense for what are the types of websites that are linking to you. Do you have spammy sites linking to you, which a lot of times can be the case if you did some SEO 10, 20 years ago, you might have some spammy links that you would want to disavow because those could actually be hurting you in the search results. And then looking long term, you want to make sure you're implementing a safe and effective link building strategy, which we'll talk about later on in this presentation. All right, so let's dive into the 5 steps. So the first step I recommend every business do is what's called a technical SEO audit. So before you do anything, you want to go through this audit. And this is basically a boiled down version of what we do for our clients right at the very start of an SEO engagement. For all of all of the core, I should say, core products or services. A little bit of a typo there. So I'll use an example here. Let's say you're an attorney and you have a real estate closing service. People will hire attorneys for the closing of their house. And let's say you also have a service for debt collection. So there are 2 separate services under the same attorney roof. And you might have, 5, 6, 7 more services. A common mistake that I see is that a business will have one page that lists all of their services, and each service does not have an individual page. And that's a problem because you're never going to rank a general service page that lists all of your services, because that's not a very relevant page if someone is specifically looking for, let's say, a real estate attorney. So someone's going to Google, typing in real estate attorney, they don't want to go to a page that shows all of the different services that your law practice has. They want to go to a page that's specifically about your real estate law service. So you want to just take a step back and look at your website structure. Do you have all of the necessary pages for your products and your services? So that's really step 1. And just taking a step back there, this next bullet, do you have a service area page? That's more for services type businesses that serve a service area. Let's say you serve like a 20-mile radius outside of Manhattan. That would be your service area, and there might be specific locations in your service area that you could have pages for that would then rank high when someone is looking for that service in that particular location. So that's another type of core page that you'd want on your site. Second piece of the audit here is checking your website load speed. And there's a tool to do this. Again, you'll get that link in the slides. It's Google's Page Speed Insights tool. And you want to put your website into that tool, and Google will tell you, it'll basically give you a score 0 to 100, and it's color coded. And if you're getting a score and it's in the color red, then you definitely have an issue with site speed that would be hurting your SEO. You want to make sure you get that fixed. Mobile optimization we already talked about. And again, there's that link again to go test your site and whether or not it's mobile friendly. Fourth checkpoint here is whether or not you have a secure website. And not only that, let's say you do have a secure version of your site, which would be HTTPS. You want to check whether or not the pages are automatically forwarding to the secure version. So you want to just have one way to access your web pages, and whether that's HTTP or HTTPS. If it is HTTPS, you want to make sure if someone types in HTTP they automatically are forwarded to that secure version of your website. And that's just something that Google has been on the record about wanting to make the internet more secure. It's basically in their best interest. They want more people trusting the internet and going and Googling and doing more business online. So they've really pushed hard to get more websites to get what's called a security. Basically, HTTPS is just a secure version of your website, and it requires you to get a go to your domain and buy. I'm blanking on exactly what that is. It's a certificate you have to buy. And if you go to GoDaddy, they're like $80 a year, $70 or $80 a year. So there is some cost, but it's pretty straightforward. GoDaddy should just be able to install that on your site. And then there's a little extra work that your developer would have to do to get your web pages to forward properly to the secure version. And this is relevant even if you don't have a e-commerce site. You may have actually received alerts from Google recently. Basically, if you have any type of web form on your site, Google wants those pages to be secure. And if they're not, Google's browser, Chrome, is actually going to start having alerts to say that, hey, this website's not secure, so be careful. So just kind of a heads up there. At this point, I strongly recommend every website make sure that they have a security certificate so they are secure, and that way if people are going to your site on Chrome, they don't get that ugly alert saying, hey, this website's not secure, which obviously could scare a lot of people. SSL certificate. Thank you, everyone, for jogging my memory. Fifth checkpoint here is domain canonicalization, which is a funky word, which don't worry about the word. It's similar to having your pages forward to the secure page. You also want your pages to only load with www or without www. So you can make the call. It's really up to you whether you want your website to load with www, for example, www.mainstreetroi.com, or you could have it load without www, and it just says, https://mainstreetroi.com. So if you try to go to our site without www, you will get automatically redirected with www. And that is the proper way to have your website set up so that you are forcing Google as well as users to use just one version of your website. All right, sixth checkpoint here is broken links. There's a great free tool out there called Screaming Frog, and here's the link to go download it. It's a desktop tool. So you'll just download that tool, get it installed, and then copy and paste your URL, your website, into the tool. And Screaming Frog will spider your website, and then it will tell you if you have any broken links on your site, which are leading people to what are called 404 pages. So you'll actually see if there are any 404 errors on your site. That's something that Google does not like because it creates a bad user experience. It obviously would hurt your conversion rates on your website, so you shouldn't really like that as well. So you definitely want to take a look to see if you have any of those broken links, and then obviously fix those. Seventh point here is duplicate content. And there's another free tool called SiteLiner. So you just go to siteliner.com, and that tool will spider your site and tell you whether pages have very similar content on them or are in fact exact duplicates. And what happens there, if Google determines that 2 pages on your site are duplicate, Google's only going to index and rank in the search results just one of those pages. So having duplicate pages is not going to give you more chances to rank, because Google determines that one of them, Google will determine that both of them are duplicates and just will use just one of them. All right, the 8th check here is related to local, that second trend I talked about, and it's Google My Business. And the question here is, do you actually have one set up, and is it a verified profile? And if not, you want to use that link I showed you before. As far as additional paid training, it's the complete SEO audit. It's a video training that's $97. And you can get that by going to the training page on our site.
Can you go back and just repeat that one more time? It seems that the connection cut out for a minute, so we had some comments about that the sound had cut out on this slide.
This slide or the previous slide?
This one, the additional resources slide.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Apologize. Yep. Apologies for any technical issues here. So additional resources, just to help you with an audit, I recommend you grab our Ultimate SEO Checklist. That's totally free. Then we have more in-depth trainings like the complete SEO audit training. We also have an SEO tune-up training to get your website edited properly. You can take a look at that at mainstreetroi.com/training. And lastly, our master class, which is SEO Jumpstart. I'll include that link as well. All right, step number 2. So after you've done that audit, and really you can do that before diving into keyword research. And that's really just making sure that you don't have any technical problems with your site, like website structure, site speed, duplicate content, all of that. Next, we want to get into keyword research. And that's, what are people actually searching to find your product or service? And before we dive into keyword research, it's important to understand this concept that there's 2 types of keywords. There's keywords that have buying intent, and that's where the searcher is looking to actually make a purchase. And when that's the case, you're going to optimize a page on your site like a product or service page. That should be straightforward. Someone's looking to make a purchase, then you want to show them the product or service page where they can actually make that purchase. There's also keywords out there that are more research intent. These are like the how-to type keywords where the searcher is actually looking for information. They're not necessarily looking to make a purchase. Again, how-to, what is, how, XYZ. For these types of keywords, it doesn't really make sense to send them to a product or service page. You want to send them to a page that's going to actually give them the information that they are looking for. And you can use a blog article. That's why blogging can be great. But you can also create a what I call a resource center on your site, which is just an area of your site where you have articles, and you can organize them however you want. But ultimately, the goal is to have these articles optimized when people are in research mode, because you want to get those pages to rank. And now when those pages rank, people are researching, they go to your website, they learn about what it is that they're looking for, but they're now also exposed to your business, and you have an opportunity to get your business as well as your products and services in front of them, and ideally try to capture their contact information so that you can follow up later. So how do you find keywords that are relevant for your business? It's really Keyword Research 101 here. I recommend you take a look at Google's Keyword Planner tool. And again, you'll get the slides. You'll just click on that link. The Planner tool works like a thesaurus. You can just start out by typing in some keywords that you think people are searching to find your products or services, and then click search, and the keyword tool will show you the keywords that you actually typed in. And then if you scroll down, it will show you other relevant searches. And that's why it's like a thesaurus. So you'll be able to find additional keywords that you didn't initially think of. And then it's basically an iterative process where you can keep searching and uncovering more and more keywords. And what you want to do is, this trips up a lot of people when they get into keyword research. First and foremost, you want to find the most relevant keyword for each page on your site that you're trying to optimize. So again, on the previous slide, there's two types of keywords: buying intent or research intent. Let's say it's a buying intent type keyword. Someone is looking to buy a Nike running shoe, and they actually type in, the model number. You're obviously going to send that person straight to that product page. So you want to find the most relevant keyword, and then from there, you'll probably get a handful of keywords that are relevant, anywhere from 2 to maybe 5 keywords that are pretty relevant for that product or that service. So then you want to prioritize those keywords by the number of searches. So first and foremost, it has to be relevant. Just throw away all the keywords that are not relevant for that particular page. Again, you'll be left with, let's say, 2 to 5 keywords. And then you want to just pick that keyword that's getting the most searches each month. And the keyword planner will tell you how many searches. And that's the keyword that you want to, that's the core keyword that you want to optimize for. All right, so what does it mean to optimize? And that brings us to step number 3, which is actually editing those web pages. And there's 4 areas you want to edit. The first one here, which is arguably the most important, is your web page title. If you're familiar with HTML, if you view the HTML of a page and actually search for title, you'll see some code like this. It'll say less than sign, title, then greater than sign. And then in between where it says ... there, that's where the actual title of the page is. And Google reads the title of the page to determine what that page is about. And I think a great analogy here is chapters in a book. And if you use that analogy, you'll realize that you want to make the chapters in a book very descriptive, because if you're opening up a book and you want to be able to find what you're looking for, you'd want to comb through the table of contents and find the chapter that has that information. So you want to have a very descriptive title, and you also want all of your titles to be unique. Because again, if you open up a book, went to the table of contents, and all the titles were the same on the table of contents, you would have no idea how to find the information you're looking for. And you can kind of carry that analogy over, and Google uses a similar process where, someone's doing a search in Google, they can quickly look at the titles of the pages in their index to see, where are the relevant pages that they should be ranking for that particular search. Another key area is the meta description. And it's important to note that Google does not use the meta description as an algorithm ranking factor. However, when Google does rank your website in the search results, they use the title as the blue underlined link that's in the search results, and then underneath the title is the meta description. So when combined, the title and the meta description are basically like an ad, like an advertisement in Google search results. So you want to have a descriptive, compelling web page title. That's like the ad headline. And then the meta description should be a descriptive and compelling description of that particular page. And I have the HTML there. If you're familiar with HTML, that's what you would be editing right there, where it says content equals quotes. Within those quotes, you would replace the ellipses with the actual meta description. Third area on your page is going to be the headers. So most important is the web page title, and the second most important would be the headers on the page. And I like to think back to school when I was writing papers for school. A lot of times I would break up the paper by using headers, and it kind of organizes the paper that you're writing. In that way, you basically use an outline, and the outline of the article becomes the header. So each header is a description of that particular section of the page. Headers are great for organizing the pages from a usability standpoint. It helps users, when they come to your page, find what they're looking for. And it also helps Google determine what your page is about, because Google knows that a lot of people like to write like I was describing before. They'll use kind of the outline of the page as the headers, and Google can kind of take a shortcut, look at the title of the page and look at the headers, and right away get a good sense for whether or not that particular page has what the searcher is looking for. So you want to put the keywords that you're optimizing for in the page titles, and you want to be putting them in the headers of your page. And those are some examples of HTML. There's H1, which is the most important header. It's kind of the first header. And then there's subheaders, H2, H3, etc. Lastly is web page copy. And all I really want to say here is to write naturally. That's really a key takeaway. A lot of people get hung up on trying to write, quote, SEO content. And I really hate that kind of idea of writing a page just for SEO, because at the end of the day, Google's goal is to find the most relevant page that has just basically the answers to the question that searcher is looking for. And if you optimize the titles, the descriptions, and the headers, you're showing Google that it is a very relevant page. And then if you write naturally, then you're going to have really good information that people are going to want to read, and are going to then stay on the page and probably click around and maybe learn more on your site. And those are going to be positive signals, versus if you go down the road of trying to write, quote, SEO content, which gets into more lower quality type content, people are not going to stick around on your site, and those are going to be negative signals that will ultimately hurt you in the rankings. So key takeaway, optimize the titles, the descriptions, the headers, and then when it comes to the actual content, the actual copy on that page, you absolutely want to be writing naturally. If it's a research intent keyword that you're optimizing, it's going to be an informational type article that would lend itself to a longer type article. If it's a buying intent keyword, you're going to be optimizing a product or service page, probably going to be a shorter page. It's probably going to be more sales copy oriented to try to get the conversion. All right, step 4, we already talked about links, and now we want to actually get those links. So here are 5 safe and effective ways to get links. The first one, you can create something awesome. This sounds good in theory, but isn't very easy to implement. But this is the best way to get the most valuable links. So if you can create something in your industry that your prospects would love, or even colleagues would like to use. So maybe it's a tool. A great example you can see these mortgage calculators everywhere on bank websites. But if you were that first website that created a mortgage calculator, that was pretty much something that was awesome in that industry, and a lot of other websites would then naturally want to link to that because it's a really cool tool. It's very useful to figure out how much your mortgage payment is going to be. So that's the best way to get links, but obviously it's the hardest as well. Second way to get links is also not going to be easy. You can do something awesome and get PR, and that's basically even getting outside of online marketing and starting to maybe doing something in your community, hosting a community event. Those types of things where you're doing something that's worthy of actual PR, and maybe your local newspaper would pick it up and would write about it and then link to you. Those are going to be very high value links for your business. Next gets into something that's a little bit easier, but does require work. You can write for a column. As an example, I actually have a column on targetmarketingmag.com, which is a website that provides a lot of marketing advice. So it's obviously a very relevant website for our industry, for my business, and their audience would potentially want our services. So there's a really good fit there. And basically I write an article. It's every other week and get it published on that website. And not only is that getting really good exposure for our business, but it also comes with a link back to our site. You can also publish guest blog articles. If you've done research into SEO, this is nothing new, but it is still effective if you can find relevant other websites in your industry that are relevant, and so get an agreement where you can write an article, get it published on their site with a link back to your site. That can be a valuable link for SEO. And lastly here is the easiest by far, and that's just creating accounts on business directories. These are going to be the lowest value links from an SEO standpoint. But the side benefit here, I mentioned this earlier when we were talking about local SEO. When you create accounts on relevant business directories, what happens is it creates what's called a citation, because the directory is going to list your name, address, and phone number. And Google looks at all of these citations that you have online. And if you have a lot of citations, that improves your rankings in the local SEO results, so in those map results on the first page of Google. All right, step 5 is to create more pages. The way I like to think about this, a lot of businesses just, they build a website and they kind of think of that as this one-time push, and then they have a website, and let's say it has 10 pages, or maybe it has 50 pages. Well, if that's how you've done it and you haven't created any more pages, you've basically limited the chances that you have to rank in Google. So if you only have 10 pages on your site, you only have 10 opportunities where Google would show the page in the search results. If you have 50, you obviously have more opportunities. But if you think of it as your website is not a one-time push and it's actually growing, then if you add a page each month, let's say you're blogging each month, and at the end of the year you've got 12 new pages or 12 more opportunities to get found in Google. And obviously that can snowball year after year. So let's break it down for the different types of keywords. For buying intent keywords, we already talked about this. You want to create unique product or service pages for each product or service. And then if you create a new product or service, or you launch a new one, obviously you need to create a new page. We talked about creating a service area page for each of the different locations that you serve. And then for research intent keywords, highly recommend you start blogging. That's a great way to target all of those research-oriented keywords that your prospects are searching. I also recommend you build out a resource center. A resource center is great for that evergreen content. So something that's not necessarily timely. So if you can do both blog and a resource center and have the blogging content be more timely, so kind of like trends in your industry, and then the resource center is the evergreen type content. And I'm going to show an example of this. You can also splinter articles for different niches. And if that doesn't make sense, it'll make a lot more sense once I show you the example. So let's get into the case studies here. So just to prove that that 5-step process does in fact work, here is a screenshot of Google Analytics. And you can see upper left-hand corner, this is just showing organic search. So that's just SEO traffic. And then we're showing sessions or visits versus goal completions. And goal completions are web form leads. And I'm pointing out that this is a seasonal business. It's a paving company. So in the winter, they do get a dip, which is why you see that traffic go down right around, what is that, July? Right around October, it looks like it starts dipping down. But if you look at July 2015, traffic was 174 and conversions was 7. July 2017, 699 visits, 112 conversions. So you can see a 4-time increase in traffic, a 16-time increase in conversions. And when I ran this report, I knew that things were on an upward trend, but I hadn't looked in a while and was pleasantly surprised by the right side of this graph. And then when I dug into kind of what happened around March 2017, basically what we did here was we did another audit. And this is a great case study highlighting the importance of continually auditing your website. So don't think of audits as this one-time thing. You're done, you fix everything and it's fixed forever. The reality with websites is they are continuously changing, and your developer might be adding pages, making tweaks here and there. And because of that, things tend to break. And that's definitely been the thing that we've found is we'll do audits. We tend to do them on a twice-a-year basis. And we did one here in about March, and we were able to find some issues, get those fixed. And you can see the traffic and the conversions started going up in a nice trend there. Here's another case study which has a nice upward trend for traffic. It's basically the same report for a different client. You can basically ignore the goal completion hump here that spikes up and then down. If you ever see that in one of your reports, it tends to highlight a tracking issue. And that's what we had here. Basically, it shot up, and then once we fixed that, it came down to where it should be along the trend line. You can see here, this is an example of early on doing an audit, getting everything cleaned up early. And from that point, we started to see a nice increase in traffic. And then on an ongoing basis, working on the link building tactics that we already talked about, that worked to build up the website's authority to further improve rankings and further increase traffic. And I mentioned I wanted to show you some examples of splintering in case you're not familiar with that topic. And this is actually our website. And the search here is SEO for moving companies. And you can see what's ranking here and what's called that position 0. Google's basically taking a few sentences and bullet points from the page and putting that in the first page of Google along with a link, so that we're getting the position 0 as well as the first position there, effectively getting 2 rankings for the price of 1. And that's an article walking through our local SEO guide for moving companies. And then this next one here is local SEO for dentists. We also serve dentists, so we have a guide for dentists. And I'm sure you can see the pattern here. We also have a local SEO for lawyers guide. So we basically took a step-by-step guide that we wrote and published, and then what's called splintered it. So we splintered it for the different niches that we serve. So I'm highlighting that for you so that hopefully you can get some ideas for how you could take a article, and then you do need to rewrite it. It needs to be unique content, and then you can rewrite it for each of the different, let's say, niches that you serve in your business. All right, before we get to Q&A, I have a special offer, and that is 3 step-by-step 90-minute video training courses. First one is the complete SEO tune-up. Second one is the local SEO formula that walks you through how to get ranked high in Google's local results. And the third one is Introduction to Google Analytics. All 3 of those are sold on our site. If you go to mainstreetROI/training, you'll see they're sold for $97. That's a total value of $291. You can get everything for the price of 1. So it's basically buy 3 for the price of 1. You go to mainstreetroi.com/SEO bundle. And with that, we will get to Q&A. I think we've got a lot here, Kate.
We do. So I'll start back, I think. Probably we'll look at some questions that came in at the beginning of the presentation, and we'll go work our way through and get through some of the questions that came in. Does that work for you, Phil?
Yeah, that sounds good.
Okay, so one of the questions we had with regard to SEO early on was about Google's algorithms and how often they change, and if there's any way to expect when the next major change will come.
So they change. The short answer is they change a lot. And Kate, I actually get an echo, so if you could mute yourself, that'd be great.
You got it.
All right, so that's a great question. The short answer is they are constantly changing their algorithm. So Google's always trying to improve their search engine because they want to have people coming back and using Google, because they make the vast majority of their revenue from people going to Google and then clicking on ads. They're always working and tweaking their algorithm. Basically, the key takeaway is don't even worry about that. I know a lot of people do worry about the algorithms changing. One excuse that I've heard to not invest in SEO is that it's not worth it because Google can just change their algorithm and you lose your rankings. Well, the reality is that can happen, but it's not likely to happen if you're following best practices and you're actually giving Google what Google wants, which is going through the 5 steps that I outlined. So if you're, I guess the longer answer is Google changes and makes tweaks to the algorithm constantly, but the underlying SEO strategy really has never changed since Google was founded. The strategy of optimizing those 4 key areas that I mentioned on your page, making sure that you have the title tag optimized for your keywords, the headers, and a strong, compelling meta description, that has never changed. And the content of the pages should always be written for the users, and Google wants to rank really good, well-written content. And again, that has never changed, but Google's code and algorithm has greatly changed over the years. So hopefully that clarified.
All right, thank you. So getting into kind of the early on in the presentation, we were talking about mobile websites and how that's become a big trend. One of the questions was about whether or not the mobile site also affects the desktop ranking of a website.
So that's a great question, and it's related to what I was talking about, this trend that Google's going to go to a mobile first index. So as it stands right now, Google is using a desktop first index, and that's how they've always done it. They go to your desktop website and they use that to determine how you're going to rank in the desktop results. Not too long ago, Google started going to the mobile version of your site and using some of those signals that would then affect how you rank in the mobile search results. So right now, if you have a desktop version and a mobile version, the desktop version affects how you rank in desktop, and the mobile version affects how you rank in the mobile version. When Google switches to a mobile first index, Google's actually going to go to your mobile site and make the call about how your website should rank. Now, if Google makes that change tomorrow and you do not have a mobile version of your website, Google would then default and look at the desktop version of your website. So you really would be fine if you did not have a mobile site. That is, of course, just related to Google, because you're not really fine, because a lot of people are searching on their mobile phones, and you're basically going to miss out on all of that traffic and all of those sales. So it makes the most sense to actually invest in a mobile optimized site, and then you need to start thinking about, now that you have a mobile optimized site, what's going to happen if mobile goes to that site to make decisions about how well your website should rank in the desktop results, because that's ultimately the direction that Google's going in.
Got it, thank you. So moving on to some questions about trend number 2, where we talked about local SEO. Could you speak a bit to whether or not that's relevant to more national, global organizations or virtual businesses? I know local SEO definitely for those brick and mortar businesses in a local community, it's an obvious kind of answer for that, but for some of the other types of businesses, how does this affect them?
It's another good question, and the way I like to think about it is if you do want to attract local customers and clients, then it makes sense to get set up. But on the other hand, you can also check in Google if Google's actually showing map results on the first page, because if they're not, there's going to be no way for you to actually rank high if Google's just simply not showing the map results for relevant searches in your industry. If you are a strictly e-commerce business, then it does not make sense. But if you're a national, let's say you're a national professional services company, so you work with people who happen to be in your local area, but you also serve nationwide, you would still want to set up a Google My Business profile, because for those local people who are searching for your particular service, let's say it's accounting, and they're searching for an accountant nearby, I'm pretty confident if you do that search, Google is going to show the maps on the first result and show nearby accountants. And if you have your Google My Business profile optimized and you follow the best practices for local SEO, you would likely rank high and get clients who are local. So it makes sense to build that out, even though your business might serve national clients as well.
Got it. Thanks. Okay. So working down into some discussions, we had some questions coming in when we were talking about backlinks. So one question was whether or not we're trying to get when you're getting backlinks, are you trying to get the same backlinks as your competitors?
So that gets into competitor backlink research, which is a great tactic to find additional opportunities to get links. And what we generally do is we'll look at the client's backlink profile, then we'll look at the people who are the other websites that are ranking high, look at their backlink profile, and see if there are opportunities to get links, similar links for our client, and basically play catch up. So that is definitely a great tactic. So if you can pick off the same links that your competitors have, that kind of puts you on an even playing field, and then on an ongoing basis, you can then overtake them by getting additional links that they don't have.
Great, thank you. Another question, I believe we talked about disavowing spammy backlinks, and there was a couple questions on specifically how to do that.
So you would need to set up a Search Console account, and I showed that link earlier. It's I think it's google.com/webmasters/tools, and then within Search Console, there's an area to actually submit a disavow file, and that file would just have the links that you want to disavow. And for anyone not familiar, disavowing just says, hey Google, I know these websites are linking to me. I want you to not count those links in your algorithm.
Got it, thank you. So then we got down to talking more about service area pages and the importance of needing to have a dedicated web page for each of your services or products. And someone just, I guess, could you expand on that? There was questions about single page websites, so the scrolling sites that people have, and things of that nature. Is that something that you would then recommend from an SEO side would not be a good idea?
Yeah, that's a great point. So there are websites where it looks like a normal website, but that you click on the top navigation and it just kind of shoots you down the page. That's called a bookmark. Those pages are definitely not good for SEO, or those websites. So from Google's perspective, it just looks like one page. And as I mentioned before, you want to have pages very specific to the product, each product and each service that you provide. So I do not recommend the sites that just kind of bookmark you down to sections. I forget, Kate, if there was anything else you were asking, but I definitely wanted to highlight that I do not recommend those sites, and Google's not going to rank the bookmarked sections.
I think that covers it. Thank you. Another question that we had with regard to service area pages was whether or not you recommend, or I guess talking about how you should name the service area page in the meta tag, and someone asked, should you actually name the meta tag service area page?
So you can have a page, let's say you serve like 5 big areas. Let's say you're in, we worked with a client that was in Hartford, and then they served like 5 or 6 nearby towns. So we basically picked the most populated nearby towns that they served. We created a service area page that listed those locations and also linked to individual pages for those locations. So let's say on your site in the top navigation, you have a link that says areas served. You click on that link. It says, hey, we're XYZ company. We serve the following locations. And maybe even you can slap a map on that page, which looks nice, and have a nice little radius showing how far you serve. And then you can have bullet points for each location that then link to a page specifically for that location. So I'm blanking on nearby locations in Hartford, but let's just say there's a page for Hartford. You click on that page, and now you want to optimize that page for XYZ service in Hartford, Connecticut. So that would be an example of the title tag. And then the header would have, XY, something to the effect of XYZ service, or serving, providing XYZ service in Hartford, Connecticut. And then you have to have unique content explaining your service in that area.
Okay, thank you very much. So we'll just take a few more questions that we're, excuse me, getting through here. Sorry, I'm just trying to find the exact one to go. So someone had asked, kind of also going along with these pages, do hidden pages help or hurt SEO, or is there no real difference to those?
Hidden page, I'm not sure what you're referring to. If you mean it's a page that's not linked to what I call an orphaned page, so it doesn't have any links to it. If it has no links to it, it's going to be very hard for Google to find it unless it's in your sitemap, or you just actually submit it through Search Console. So hidden pages, if you're saying it's not linked to, if you think about, the fact that links to the page help build up the authority of that page, that's obviously going to hurt you from an SEO perspective if there are no links to that page. If you're saying it's hidden from the search engine, which I will touch on now, that's a good topic. There's code that you can put on a page. It's called a no index tag. And a lot of times you'll do that when you don't want Google to actually index a page. Let's say it's just a online advertising landing page that you've built and it's not for SEO. You might add a no index tag. If that is the case, then Google will not index it and it would never rank in Google.
Got it, thank you. We had a specific question regarding new blog content and people who are photographers or businesses that operate with a lot of images, and wanted to know if you could talk a little bit about alt text, the alt text field in an image, and how to get the most out of that, since a lot of the content on their pages ends up being visual as opposed to text content.
Sure, so I do recommend, if for all of your images you use alt text. It's it's what's called an accessibility issue, where if someone's on your site and they can't see very well, or maybe they're completely blind, then there are tools that will actually read the web page for them. And when it comes to images, they read the alt text. So it's a best practice just from a usability standpoint to use alt text. And then it is also something that Google takes into account because it is content on the site. So it makes sense to then incorporate the keyword that you're trying to optimize that page for, try to weave that into the alt text, if at all possible. So you don't want to put it in there unnaturally, but if it makes sense, certainly try to get the keyword into the alt text of those images.
All right, thank you. All right, so I will get through, we'll take two more questions here, and just working through. Sorry, I've got a whole bunch of questions coming through. Someone had asked if you could speak a little bit about blog content for B2C businesses and figuring out, for businesses. I think we had a question in here at one point, like a local coffee shop who doesn't have a blog. If you can talk a little bit about how to use a blog on their site for SEO purposes, but also if it doesn't seem completely relevant to a very, local business, do you have some recommendations on what that would look like or how they could get some new pages on the site to help with SEO?
Sure. So if it's a local coffee shop, I would take a step back and think about, what are the different customer personas. And the first thing I immediately thought of was that entrepreneur or work from home person who wants to work at a coffee shop. And you can start thinking about, once you've narrowed down your customer personas, then you can start from there thinking about, okay, what kind of content would that particular person want that's, related to the coffee shop. And that kind of gets into productivity content you could start writing about, get into even just kind of how to, I guess it's just, I keep thinking of productivity type articles would be great. That would, someone might be searching, how to maximize productivity at home. And, that could be an article, 5 tips. And one of those tips is, you should find a nearby coffee shop and kind of mix it up, because if you are at home alone, that can get obviously lonely, and you're more productive if you can get up at least one time a week, go to a nearby coffee shop and, get a coffee and actually talk to other people, see other people. That can help productivity. So that's one idea. But then once you start thinking of your other customer personas, you'd obviously come up with a lot more ideas for what you could be blogging about.
All right, thank you. So the last question that we'll work with, and this is kind of a good way to end it, someone wanted to know, to what extent does the volume of traffic to a site affect SEO rankings? Kind of like the chicken and the egg situation. Obviously, you want to optimize for SEO, but then how much traffic comes to your site, does that also affect SEO? Kind of have the snowball effect. So you could speak to that a bit.
So I wouldn't worry about it. If you don't get any traffic to your site, that's not, it's certainly not an excuse for not being able to rank. More traffic begets traffic, similar to how a lot of social media activity can lead to higher rankings. However, you can't really point to social media signals as being a factor in the algorithm. Google's actually gone on the record and said that they don't use social media signals. But when more people are going to the site from any sources of traffic, that's going to lead to more word of mouth. It's going to lead to more, ultimately more links to your site. And that's going to build up the authority of that site. And then there is that snowball effect. And it is certainly easier when you have more traffic to steer that traffic and obviously drive more leads, more sales, and then leverage that. Even if you're getting traffic from other relevant businesses, leverage that into getting even more links to your site. So again, that can start snowballing and lead to even higher rankings and more traffic.
All right, thanks, Phil. I think we'll wrap that up for today. We want to thank everybody for staying on the line for these extra few minutes to get through some questions. We, again, will be sending out a replay link of this webinar along with the PDF of the slides for your reference, and that you can therefore then use all of the links, and they'll be active in those slides. That will come within the next 24 hours. We hope you'll join us for more of the Master Your Marketing webinar series coming in the coming months. And we also hope you all enjoy a very happy and restful, relaxing Labor Day weekend to come. Thank you all so much for joining us, and have a great rest of your day.
And also, please complete the brief survey after the webinar. So I'm going to close out the webinar in just a second here, and you should get redirected to a survey. And we'd love to hear your feedback about this presentation, as well as ideas for any future trainings that we might host. All right, thanks everyone.